Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lead Different podcast. Our guest today is the lovely and talented and ultra amazing Liz Wendling. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. She is the founder and the leader of, she's a nationally founder and leader of her own business, but she's also a nationally recognized business consultant, sales expert, and the creator of the Sales Clinic. She combines her rock solid sales background with the passion for coaching, and the result is a powerful new way to understand how to sell in today's crowded marketplace. Her innovative approach supports you in opening doors, closing sales, and building relationships. She is driven by her passion for business and her desire to assist her clients with generating results. She understands the challenges professionals face when building a business and selling in today's crowded marketplace. She has coached thousands of professionals to build solid business skills, develop a success mindset, exceed their sales expectations, and prosper in any economy. Now, who doesn't want to be coached by that person, right? So, Liz, welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I'm so glad to have you on.
I am happy to be here.
You know, this is a really cool thing. You were on my previous show, Why Not Wednesday,
Yes.
and you've been someone that from the first day I met you, I've gotten value out of every interaction I've ever had with you. And that is hard to do because everybody out there has solutions and things they're offering. But you are someone who definitely lives up to your why of finding a better way, your how of making things simple, and your what of building trust. So I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you, Dan. Let's do this.
So Liz, let's talk about one of the things that people, if you're not following Liz on LinkedIn or Facebook, or what other platforms are you on, Liz?
Mostly LinkedIn, I would say. LinkedIn and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel.
So if you're not following Liz and you haven't seen one of her videos, please follow and view, because I've been in sales my entire life, and there's not a time that I go to your content and don't get something good. And here's what you're really good at, Liz, your how of simplify. There are some things that are just simply make sense. So what drives you to say those? It's just give us that very pointed advice. Some of it's just like, do your job, right?
It's pretty much as simple as that. But I don't understand why people make selling harder than it has to be, more convoluted than it needs to be, and just they muck it up, because here's why. People would rather it be confusing and messy and feel inauthentic to them, because they gives themselves permission to not learn how to do it well. If they hate selling and declare, I don't like to be one of those pushy people, then they're giving themselves permission to not be good at sales. So you have a choice. You don't have to be pushy, but you do have to figure out a way to move the sale forward. You never have to manipulate anybody, but you do have to understand how people make decisions. You never have to be aggressive, but you do have to be someone who stays in conversation with someone, whether it's a yes or a no, or I'll never do business with you, whatever it is. But too many people give themselves permission to fail because they say they don't want to be salesy, instead of stepping in and learning how to do it in a way that aligns with their head, heart, and soul.
Well, one of the things you said, I love that. First of all, hey, can you feel the passion? I'm telling you something. If you get to work with Liz one-on-one, you're going to get that passion and you're going to feel it and it's going to make you better. But one of the things, yeah, I mean, recently you talked about the fact, look, you can call sales whatever you want, but sales are the only way to stay in business. So it's time to get over it. You started your post with that. You can dress it up as consulting, assistance, support, solution finding, call it whatever you want, but it's what you have to do to keep your business afloat. Nothing happens in business until you make a sale, right?
That's it, Dan. It's crazy to me that people resist the one part of their business that actually drives business.
Mhm.
But I know what's going on in their head when they say that, when it's all about, oh, I don't sell, not me. Oh, I don't touch that stuff. No, no, no. All I do is share, or all I do is serve. And I say, that's great. But after you're done sharing and serving, what happens? So when someone, let's use the example of a mechanic. Somebody goes, their transmission blew in their car, and they're talking to a mechanic, and the mechanic says, okay, well, you blew your transmission. This car isn't going anywhere until you replace it. And the person at the auto body shop can serve and serve and serve. Let me show you a video of what a transmission does. Let me send you a white paper on how important it is to have a transmission in your car. And they serve and just talk about the problem, but never step in and say, Dan, we have a couple of options to get a new transmission in your car. One of them looks like this, another one sounds like this, or your last option is this. Somebody has to step in and move the process forward. And same thing if you're talking to a plastic surgeon or someone who's going to fix something in your body. You can talk about the process and you can serve, but at some point, someone has to step in and say, is this something you're looking for? And then move into a sales conversation. So serving and selling is so important. But you can't do one without the other. You can't sell and jam your products down someone's throat all day because nobody's going to buy that. But you also can't only serve because no one wants a servant. They want someone who's aligned with them and can provide a solution when they need it. So serving and selling is the equivalent of inhaling and exhaling. You need both. You can't inhale all day or exhale all day. You must do both. And that is a true professional who steps into that sales conversation from the serving side and the selling side and provides a solution to someone if it's the right fit. That's it. Make it any harder than that, and you are not going to have a great, thriving business.
And if it's a fit, it's a fit, right?
Right.
Look, and you know, it's also where you hunt. And I've learned this from you, Liz. I've learned this from you, Mark Hunter, and a couple of. Look, you got to hunt in the right places, right?
Yes.
Because you have a price, and you posted about this recently. Look, there's a premium to working with Liz Wendling, and there's a price at which she's going to price her services.
Sure.
If you're talking to people that are on financial assistance, it doesn't matter how good a salesperson you are; they cannot afford you.
Right.
So you're talking to the wrong audience. So it starts with talking to the right audience, and you mentioned it. And then you've got to bring value.
That's
Do
it.
they value what it is that you're bringing? If they value what it is that you bring, the price is not going to be a question. It's a matter of you've got to serve. So you've got to bring them something of value, and then you've got to put a price on it, and then you've got to deliver. It really seems that simple to me. Am I oversimplifying it?
No, you're not, but there's one big piece. The other person has to be receptive to a different outcome. Not everybody, and I know this is crazy. Not everybody that starts a diet really wants to lose weight. Not everybody that quits smoking truly wants to quit smoking. And no one, I know, not everyone that calls me and says, Liz, I want to change my business. I want to talk differently. I want to sell differently. Some people only like to talk about it. They don't want to step in and change it. And I, in a very short amount of time, can figure out those people who only want to talk to me and tell me how hard it is and how hard they work and how much marketing they do and how much social media they do. But they know the piece that's in the way is actually stepping into a sales conversation with power, with great questions, with value, with being able to understand what it is someone wants and being able to match that up if it's the right fit. So it just baffles me that people think that there isn't, that all of that doesn't encompass the whole sales process and that conversation.
Yeah, and the sales process is really a discovery process, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
about finding out, because if it's a fit, it's a fit, and then let's work.
Right.
Somebody once said it. Someone I was working with said, "Look, if your product can solve their problem, you have a responsibility to help them make the right decision so you can help them." Now,
Mhm.
that's where sales skills come in handy, right? Asking the right questions so that you can help that client see the benefit of working with you and what they'll get. And then they can see that, oh, if I invest X, I'm going to get Y,
That's it.
right?
Yep.
And so it,
Sales skills are not just for selling. It's communication skills, it's value skills, it's questioning skills, it's being able to empathize with someone. There's so many other facets than, hey, sit down and let me tell you about my product. That's old school selling. And if people think that that's what selling is, then you're doing it wrong. It's completely backwards. That's how it used to be, but not anymore. Now it's completely different. And if you're leading and it's sales skills or leadership skills too. And when you're leading a sales conversation, it is about getting to the root of why you're talking. If you're just scratching the surface, I call it the difference between scuba diving and snorkeling. If you're only asking snorkeling questions, then you're not getting anywhere. Your call's going to end with, "Oh, Dan, it's been great. You've been so helpful, but I'm going to think about it." That's a little more expensive than I thought. If you aren't willing to suit up and go scuba diving with someone and ask those questions and go under the surface, then you are wasting a lot of time, energy, and money in your business. You must scuba dive.
you're having a lot of great surface level conversations
That's
that
it.
aren't leading anywhere. You mentioned something earlier, and I want to make sure we dig into this, Liz.
Okay.
Your why is better way. And so one of the things you said is you don't want to work with people that aren't willing to make the changes necessary in order to be successful. As a better way person, you're going to show them a better way. So if a client comes to you, and this is where those questions are so important, and they say, "Liz, I want you to help me to run my business better. I want to have more sales, but don't change anything I'm doing. I don't want to do it different. I don't want to change anything." How excited are you going to be to work with that client? Or I can tell, let me predict this for you. You're going to fire them before they hire you.
Absolutely. We're going to wish each other best. I'm going to give you a hug and a kiss goodbye and say, "I'm not your gal." If you want change and you want to move in a direction that aligns with who you are, because that's the one thing that I do well, is I allow people to remain intact. I never ask them to do anything that makes them uncomfortable. We might work through some scenarios where there's a little discomfort because there's some fear there, but we work through the fear to allow their real personality and essence to come through, so that when somebody is in conversation with them, they feel the real human being coming through, instead of somebody's just trying to sell me something. Here we go again, another person just trying to sell me something. That thought never goes through the other person's mind because of the way you're communicating with them. It's language built for you, for your unique business. And the only way I can get there is when I do an intake in my sales clinic. So just like you would go to the doctor's office and the doctor says, "So you're in here for shoulder pain. Does it hurt in the morning or the evening? Have you taken Advil or Tylenol?" I'm going to go in there and ask those questions. First, I'm going to be on the surface, and then I'm going scuba diving. So I'm going to snorkel a little bit, and then I'm going to get a little deeper. And that is how I can understand where you are and where you want to go, where you are and what changes we need to make in order to get you where you're comfortable and confident in every sales conversation you have, every interaction you have with the potential client. The true essence of you comes out because it's your language, not something that you downloaded off the internet or somebody told you, "Oh, don't say that, say this." It has to come from you. And when it does, that's where the connection gets made. And that's where people really see that you are showing up as your highest and best self.
I love what you said about you're not changing people. You're going to bring out their best. And so this is why I've developed my new business based on the why, because It is so accurate, and it's so accurate with you, Liz. You're looking for people that want better, want to do it better. They're open to doing it better. They're open to change, number one. And they better like simplicity, because you're going to boil it down to the basics, and you're going to say, it's not that hard. Here's the other thing I've learned. Rory Shepard is a coach that I've been working with. You know, his why is simplify. So he's even more simplified than you. I don't know that you can do that, but, you know, simple does not mean easy.
Right. Correct.
Right. Yep. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. Hey, there's only 10 commandments in the Bible. If you follow those 10 rules, you're going to heaven. How many of us struggle with 1, 2, or 3, or 4 of those on a weekly basis? Right.
Yep.
So we, you know, so I understand. So it's simple. Just 10 rules, follow those 10 rules, you'll go to heaven. But it's not easy. Probably implementing some of the stuff that you're talking about isn't easy. But here's the thing. If you're working with a coach who is heart-centered like Liz, who believes in building trust with you, she's not here just to give you a one-day solution and then send you off on your own. She's going to work with you and make sure that this is the right solution for you. Because guess what? If you're not a good fit for her, she's not even going to work with you.
Right.
So before you invest, go ahead.
I was going to say, I can get there pretty quickly with just a number of questions where I get under the surface. I could watch people's body language. I could tell where they're uncomfortable answering some of the questions, but I poke around the edges. If I say to someone, "Oh, I just noticed you just made a strange facial expression. I need to know the answer behind that." And they're like, "Oh my God. Yeah, and they're like, you really do get me," or, "Oh my gosh." And I said, this is a glimpse of who I am when you hire me. I could see this and I could fix it in the moment. I could ask you questions in the moment. And isn't that what people really want, is someone to go, "Ooh, that's where you might be turning a client off." Or when you say that actually sounds a little old school. No wonder why someone says, "I need to think about it." Or you think just because everyone else is doing it or saying it, you think it still works. Just because, and I'm just going to go off on the F word for a second. So just because everyone on the planet says I'm just following up does not mean it works. It doesn't work. Just following up, touching base, reaching out, and checking in sounds 1985. So just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean it's effective anymore. So it's going in there and cleaning up some of the mess and then putting your process back together where the ineffective strategies have been taken out and more modern and effective ones are put in place.
I love that. You taught me that and I use it. So but for the listeners who haven't had the benefit of knowing Liz Wendling for a couple of years, what's a better way to do that than, hey, so you had a great conversation. You thought you were moving forward and you haven't heard from this client. They're ghosting you.
Totally.
How do you follow up? Give us some tips and tricks that you've taught me, but I want the audience to hear.
Okay, happy to. Well, first of all, most people will send the first message, "Hey, I just wanted to follow up to see if you're ready to do X." Then they send a second message, "Hey, Dan, I'm not sure you got my first message, so I thought I would reach out again." No answer. Third message, "Hey, Dan, I'm not sure you're getting my emails, but I wanted to check in one more time." And all of a sudden, now you are the unwelcomed pest in someone's inbox. Knock, knock, knock. It's me again. Are you going to buy from me one more time? Are you going to do anything? I really could use the business. Every time you send a message that says, "I'm following up, I'm touching base, I'm reaching out," you are already behind the 8 ball. So what I teach my clients is to talk about follow-up. And I don't mean make an appointment, pull out your calendar, let's get something on the books. I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's not enough anymore. In the past, people were taught, don't leave a meeting without another meeting. All right, that's fine. But how easy is it for someone to cancel that meeting? Mm-hmm. I teach my clients to talk about what follow-up looks like without the F word, without saying, how would you like to follow up, Dan? So what I teach them language-wise is, Dan, I know you're looking at some things, or you're looking at some other coaches to work with, or I know you're going on vacation next week. What is the best way for you and I to keep this momentum going? How would you like us to keep our conversation alive? What would you like me to do once you get back from vacation? So it becomes a conversation, not just, "Oh, I'll just follow up with you in 2 weeks." you've lost. You have literally given away that beautiful conversation you've had has now been tossed in the trash because you're doing what everyone else does. I'm not going to be strong enough to talk about what follow-up looks like. So I'll just do what everyone else does. And that's pester you and follow up and follow up and follow up until I give up.
Until you get blocked.
Yes, that's it. Or then you get an email that says we went in a different direction. So I just described a better way and a more simple way, but it's a way to build trust. When I say to you, Dan, I am not the kind of person that's going to bloat your inbox with endless follow-up emails. Let's talk about what that's going to look like once you get back from vacation or after you've looked at the proposal or once you've talked to your team. What is our next step together? Whether it's to move forward or not, it's best that we talk about it now so that we don't waste anybody's time. Now, better way, simplified trust right there. And that's one little aspect of sales. I teach that in every little nuance all the way through the process so that you are trustworthy, not only in what you say, but what you do as well. Matt, you're congruent in your words and your language and the way that you show up.
So the name of the podcast is Lead Different. And I love what you just said because it's leading different. You can do what everyone else does, and you're going to get what everyone else gets. What we're talking about is doing it different. And one of the things I noticed that you said as we were talking about that, I've had this conversation recently, is you got to ask people, if you don't know, it's kind of like the love languages, right? We talk about how do you like to be followed up with? I love the question you asked. How can we keep the momentum going after you come back from vacation? The other thing that I've learned from you is take good notes and make sure you bring it back. Hey, you mentioned these things you wanted to work on, and I can help you with those things. Do you have a timeline of when you want to implement that, right? Keep the conversation engaged because you're listening and now you're solving problems versus just, hey, I'll follow up with you and I'll send a proposal that'll sit in your inbox. My favorite one, and I know this one's going to be like nails on a chalkboard. Just want to move this to the top of your inbox.
No! Oh my God. If anybody's doing that, stop today. Stop. Chop off your fingers. Do not send an email. Do not use your fingers to tap out an email like that. That is the most aggravating. Out of all the business owners I work with, they tell me that's the one that makes them cringe the most. Thought I'd bump this to the top of your email. Not sure you're getting my last 27 messages. Really? Like, now you're looking like a professional beggar instead of an aligned person doing business with another person. That is, you are neck and neck with someone. No, someone isn't up here and you're down here. You are two parties coming together to either move business forward or not. But somebody has to be the leader. Someone has to step in and be okay with language that says, Dan, look, I know you probably have as full of an inbox as I do. I have 100 emails I need to get to by the end of the day. And the last thing I want to do is add to your inbox. Let's now talk about what it is that makes sense for us as we move forward in communication. And all of a sudden, the follow-up becomes a conversation so that the next step, that conversation gets picked up versus I'm just following up. And now you feel like you're pushing someone from behind versus leading that next level conversation. We're going to end today, but we have a next step, a verbal next step, not just something that's quote unquote in a calendar. That's nice. But when you speak about it and bring it up and actually say, I don't want to waste your time. I'm not the kind of business owner who wastes anyone's time. So let's get clear on what is a best next step for us. And you're already starting to model the kind of human being, the kind of business owner you are by showing someone that I'm not here to waste anyone's time, yours or mine. And you're not being rude or mean or pushy about it. It's language that shows I respect you and I also respect your inbox. And to do that, we're going to chat about it.
And it's self-awareness, right? You know who you are. There's no doubt Liz knows exactly who she is and what it is that you bring. I think the other thing that you do really well is you turn that conversation towards you're actually, even though you're the coach selling the service, you put yourself as the buyer. And
Yes.
let me tell you what I mean by that is when I'm talking to Liz, I always feel like I have to prove myself worthy to be your client, right? And there's nothing wrong with that because I've had those conversations recently. So I say, and you tell me if I'm doing it right. I say, look,
Okay.
I only work with people who are looking for someone to help them be better. I only work with people who are open to out of the box solutions because my how is challenged. And I work with people who want someone that's going to help them make sense of that. So let's talk about your situation because I want to make sure it's a fit. And what I've noticed is there's a change in the client. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I want to make sure I'm a fit. And
Yeah.
now they're trying to tell you, hey, well, let me show you some other out of the box solutions I've implemented. And let
Yep.
me show you how I do need help making sense. And then they start sharing what's important. So tell me about how do you cause that flip? Because you're expert at it to help the clients. So you put yourself kind of in the driver's seat.
Somebody has to lead the conversation, right? Otherwise, it is guaranteed to go off in a ditch. Guaranteed. People will say, oh, I scheduled 30 minutes for this call and it went 2 hours. Well, that's your fault. You did not lead the conversation. Somebody has to put the barriers up to make sure that the conversation is clean and pure and stays in alignment. Otherwise, it's going off in the ditch. But you said something, Dan, and I like what you said, how you let people know who you are, what are the best kind of clients that work for you. So instead of saying, I only work with, sometimes I'll say my favorite clients or the clients that light my heart up or the kind of clients that come to me or have conversations with me or want to talk to me are. So I'd mix it up a little instead of I only work with people who want this. It depends on the conversation, but sometimes I'll say my favorite clients or the people who typically get the best results are ones who are having a conversation with me and they know they want A, B, and C. They know they're tired of X, Y, and Z, and they're ready to just give up the BS and finally take this last piece on in their business so they can have some peace in their business. And oh, that's me, or yeah, that's what I want. So there's nothing wrong with what you said. I gave you some additional options for that, but that elevates the conversation. It changes the listening of the person who you're talking to, because it's like, oh, I this is a higher level conversation. This lady's not going to let me complain for the next half hour. She is really going to get into a conversation and she's listening if I'm a fit for her. And they get to listen if I'm a fit for them. So when you can change someone's listening versus here we go again, another discovery call. I know what this coach is going to do. They all do the same thing. They all start the same way. They all lay out a roadmap or they do X, Y, and Z. This sounds just like the lady I hung up with. No, your conversation in their mind is, wow, she's different. Or I like the way she's talking to me. Or this conversation feels so refreshing. That's how you start to set yourself up and be different and lead different and sound different right out of the gate. You're on mute.
By the way, listeners, yes, I muted myself because I was coughing. Sorry about that, Liz. By the way, listeners, you just got to see some live coaching, and that's what Liz does. And it's those little subtle things, subtle changes that we make that Liz is so good at spotting to help you be better. And I love what you said about leading the conversation, because if you don't lead the conversation, it's going to go into a ditch, right?
Always.
Somebody's got to lead the conversation. Why not the sales professional? Why not the person who is in the position to make sure that the conversation goes in the way that it's supposed to go? Because otherwise it's just going to go. I love that you said that it's going to go down in the ditch.
And the other thing, Dan, is when it does start veering off path, you're strong enough to say, you know what, Dan, I appreciate what you're sharing with me, or the information you just provided is good information, but I'm not sure that's relevant to our conversation right now. So let's redirect and let me ask you a question. And it's modeling that I'm not going to allow you to go off in a ditch. I'm not going to allow you to inject what you think I want to hear. Let's stay on task for us to be efficient. And instead of letting somebody go off on a tangent for 20 minutes and then you're off in a ditch, show them, model for them that you know how to hold that great space for an amazing conversation, one that's fruitful, powerful, and actually has some impact. But it's up to you to hold that space and that container to make that happen. Otherwise, you're just someone else who tried to sell them something and just went off in the ditch.
And you go into the ditch. And so what I want to touch on one thing that you absolutely I learned from you
Okay.
is our favorite topic, I. Those emails that talk about I versus you. So the client doesn't care about you, they care about themselves. So converting those emails, that's such a skill and something I learned from you. Talk about your favorite emails that come to you with I messages versus you messages.
Oh my gosh, it's I, me, we do this, we're great at that. Hi, my name is, I'm a leader in this, I can help you with that. My company does this. We've helped companies just like yours double and triple their sales. And it's all this, what I call like word vomit on people, where it's just a monologue about how great they are, versus a completely different conversation. And open up an email. Here's the distinction. What I just said is an email written at someone. It is literally at them, thrown at them. There's no softness in there. It doesn't sound like someone sat down, put their fingers on the keyboard, and wrote it to me. It came at me, not written to me. And there's a very subtle, distinct, but very powerful engine in that. When someone types out an email and they say, "Hey, Liz, lately I've been noticing," or "Hey, you posted something the other day about this," that's written to me, versus an email that's written at me with I statements. We do this. We're great at that. I'd love to get 30 minutes of your time, to waste your time. All that language says to someone is, as soon as I get you on the phone, watch out, because I'm about to sell you. And that's why people don't respond to emails like that. You get deleted in a heartbeat because your message is all about you. You, we, I. It's all about me. And then people wonder, I don't understand why people just can't get back to me. I am so nice to people and they just blow me off. Well, you know why they're blowing you off? Because you're making it all about yourself. So it's really difficult to coach this right now because it's so nuanced with people. But I would challenge people to watch your emails. Check how many times you say, I wanted to do this. I'd like to get on your calendar. I'd love to schedule 30 minutes of your time, when you haven't even shown me that you know me. You haven't said anything that you know my situation. You just want to sell me something.
I really, really appreciate that. And we did this. So nowadays, everybody's got a solution, right? Everybody is going to help you write all the perfect emails, the perfect follow-up sequence that goes with, like you said, with all those messages that somebody has created. And people are buying it, and then they're sending it. And I see it even from my own friends in the coaching industry.
Yes.
Because I get their emails after, we've had a really genuine conversation, and I get that automated email at the end of the call. And I'm like, that's not what we talked about.
Yep.
That's not at all personalized. So what do you say to someone who says, but I don't have time to personalize? I do 5-6 sales calls a day. If I personalize every follow-up email, I have an answer, but I want to hear your answer to somebody who comes to you with that problem.
I would say then go get a job in the post office, because you are not going to be successful if you don't want to take the time to show someone that you care, that you give a crap about them, that you have a vested interest in the solution that they came to you for, well, then you don't deserve to get their business. And I'm sorry, I'm talking straight here. This, because I hear this all the time, Dan. I couldn't possibly do that, or I couldn't possibly write an email where it takes me 5 minutes to do that. I'm so busy. But is it okay for you to send 7 emails, to take the time to send 7 emails to someone who never gets back to you versus one powerful one that may have taken you 5 minutes to truly write from your heart? Isn't that worth it, to actually stop long enough to write as if you care about that other person? And so most people will say, I don't have the time, but they would rather make the time for 7 other emails to just send, I'm just following up, just touching base, just reaching out. So it isn't that they don't have time. What they're really saying is, I don't want to. I don't want to be the kind of person who shows that I really do make someone else feel good, that I matter. And my clients will say to me, oh my God, Liz, this lady hadn't gotten back to me. This just happened yesterday. She said, for 3 months, this lady's been blowing me off. We crafted this beautiful email that truly was written to this woman, not at her. And she got a response by the end of the day, not even the next day, the end of the day, saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have owed you an email. And it was the difference of 3 months of no connection, no contact, getting blown off. And we took one of her emails, jacked it up, massaged it a little bit. And I do what I call the optometrist. How do you like this? Does this sound better? Does this sound better? And we just tweak the prescription just a little bit. And then someone says, oh, that sounds like me. That's perfect. And then they hit send, and that person opens the email and they could feel it was written to them. That's when someone who doesn't have time, that's the difference. So you can pretend you don't have the time, or you can actually take the time and craft something that someone feels and then takes action.
I love everything you've said today, Liz. We need to probably have you back on, because I know there's more, but this was such a great insight into the importance. My coach, Jerry Lujan, I had him on the show recently. He said, look, do less things better, right? Do less things, but get really good at them. Instead of trying to do everything, right? Do less things, but do them better than anybody else, right? Versus trying to do everything, because if you're meeting with 7 people a day, you're probably not meeting with the right people.
Yeah.
Right.
Or spend 10 less minutes on Facebook. That's what I tell people. I guarantee if I looked at your phone, you were on Facebook for 4 hours. What if you took 2 of those hours and wrote emails that actually sounded professional, that showed that you cared, landed with impact, and got a response? Watch what happens.
Amazing. And the key is in the follow-up. So, Liz, what do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much, Liz. You're a pro at being on the Lead Different podcast. I really, really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with the Lead Different audience, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
You as well. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.